Welcome to the Cowboy Office Show, where you'll experience expert analysis and epic discussion on key pillars of the equine industry, including sports, business, hobby, and the horse lifestyle. Your co-hosts are Jody Brainard and Brian Dygert, industry veterans with over 120 years combined living the cowboy lifestyle. The Cowboy Office Show will help you get involved, ask more questions, and create change. We'll keep riding for you as together we learn from the ride already ridden, learn to listen better to our horse, and make our industry better for all. Each weekly episode will take a ride around the industry in less time than you can load the truck and trailer. Drop your email at cowboyoffice.com to receive weekly updates and never miss an episode. Saddle up as we ride into today's show.
Well, hello and good morning, horse world. Here we are in 2023 already. Our 2-year-olds are now 3-year-olds. We're all a little bit older and hopefully just a little wiser. Welcome to the Cowboy Office. I'm Brian.
And I'm Jody. I'd like to welcome our viewers to this episode in our series, Status of the Horse Show Industry. We've got a great guest today to talk about that horse show industry, and a 40-plus-year-old company that supplies quality custom work. We have with us today Chris Weaver from Bob's Custom Saddles. Chris is a horseman himself with an extensive upbringing and background in the stock horse side of our industry. And not only is he a good guy and a good horseman, he's got some great insight that he's going to share with us today. Chris, I'd like to thank you for your time and welcome to Cowboy Office.
Well, thank you, and Happy New Year to you guys, and Happy New Year to everyone that's out there listening to this wonderful new series and podcast that you guys have put together, and I know what you guys' goals and what you're striving for, and I just think it's a great thing, and I just thank you guys for the opportunity to share some of our insight from Bob's and some of the insight that, I've acquired over the last 30-plus years of being in the industry, from showing horses to being my business career.
Well, thanks, Chris. We appreciate you being here. Just so the audience knows, bobscustomsaddles.com is your website. You've got a really good website, so they can always go straight to you guys. We will also put direct links through the Cowboy Office website so that they can get straight to you, talk to you, communicate, all the things that they're going to need. You guys are the experts in it, so that piece will be in there. Before we really dive into the show, give us, we're all riding horses, but if we use the terminology of 30,000 foot, give us your it's a new year. What's your basic take on how we're doing as an industry? Good, bad, indifferent, life's okay? What's your gut?
Well, I think that the industry has had some huge opportunities that are growing, and as they say, you got to plant the seed and water it. And I think over the last 5 years, there's been a lot of seed planting, and I think there's a lot of different aspects that go into that. One, we've had a tremendous amount of recognition through some TV broadcasts and some shows, being Yellowstone and some things that Taylor Sheridan has done. And then we got to give a big applaud and a big reach out to Patrick over there at the Cowboy Channel, being able to put the Western lifestyle that we live today. I know it's rodeo, but yes, there's been cuttings on the Cowboy Channel and reining information for the reiners on there. It just shows what the Western lifestyle is, and I think that there's a lot of difference in maybe what's going on now than what happened with the urban cowboy craze. And then the events themselves, the disciplines, the reining, the cow horse, the cutting, the horse show world, the advancement that they've made. I think that even though we have really no barometer on what's going to happen, we can talk about the economy. I mean, there's people that did really, really well in 2008 and 2009, but I just really think that there's a broad stroke going on. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm. I think that there's a lot of things that are happening that are spectator driven. And spectator is what we need. We need to have people want to go and watch something. I mean, you have the cow horse. Cow horse has got one of the greatest spectator events going down the fence. You talk about the cutting horse industry. Yeah, boy, they've got, it's kind of a problem sometimes when they got to settle the herd, but the compliment is to watch a cutting horse go cut a cow. What athletes. And then we got to talk about the athletes, the horse themselves. Horses have turned themselves into athletes. And so I think from that state, I think we're doing really, really good. I think the industry has a lot of positives. And we as stewards of the industry, we as companies and sponsors and supporters, and what you guys are doing and what the associations are doing. And we're starting to see associations that maybe used to look at themselves as competitors. We're all getting along in the performance industry, and we're wanting the whole thing to grow. So we got to be good stewards and being positive stewards about what we're doing and what you guys are talking about. Man, I think we're in a really good spot.
Well, that's great to hear. And you bring up several points that we're going to certainly dive into a little bit more. So I appreciate that. And I always love to ask that question so that I'm not, barn blind myself and getting other people's views. So let's spend a minute talking about your company. Let's talk about Bob's Custom Saddles. Jody and I both are very familiar with your company, your products. We've ridden in them, probably still got them in our barns. And so we're very familiar, but you guys been around for over 40 years. One, that's way cool. And then two, you made note, elaborate on the fact, because I think every major discipline plus some of our major breeds, you've got finalists and or world champions that have been riding in a Bob. So talk to us just a little bit about that.
Yeah. Bob's Custom Saddles, it's 46, 47, is it 48? When Bob Haley started the company, there was some, in the beginning processes, when was that official date? But let's just go with 47 years. It's just amazing what Bob's Custom Saddles has done. And 7 years ago, I had the pleasure of coming in and running the company and reestablishing the brand and doing some things and working with quality and knowing the craftsmen that we have and the performance that the saddle has brought on. And the part of the performance of the saddle is, this was some of the stuff that when I first started delving into, we have 5 filing cabinets with 5 drawers in them that are of every single order this company has ever made. So that is one of the cool things. In people call in the serial number that's on the left skirt of the saddle. We know exactly what it is. So I started going through all that. And to your point, we have had competitors that have competed at the highest level at the NFR, the NCHA Futurity and Derby, the NRHA Futurity and Derby, the NRCHA Futurity and Derby, the World's Greatest Horseman, super horse appearances at the AQHA World Show, reining titles, cow horse titles, Western riding titles, Western pleasure titles. So, we stay as humble as we can, but sometimes we sit there and scratch our head and go, holy crap, what are we doing here? That's a pretty broad spectrum of being able to facilitate all that.
That is incredible. I had mentioned to you the last time we briefly talked that I won my first one in 1989, and I've ridden them since. So and they won me a lot of money, and it has been a great ride. My help, I can't say enough about the product that you guys are still turning out. And, every new one that I order, and fortunately for me that I don't have to have too many more of those new ones and wear them out anymore at my age. But the quality is, the saddles ride exactly the same way. And when you make your living in them for 40 years, and, when you order the first one I got in 1989 rides, because it's built on the same tree, it rides exactly the same way as the last one that I ordered. So, my compliments to your company and the way that it's ran, because that's not a simple thing.
Well, thank you. And a large part of that is that our product is manufactured in our facilities with the same lineage, the same family that started with Bob's Custom Saddles 47 years ago. And we still buy trees from the same tree manufacturer for over 30 plus years. We still buy Herman Oak leather. We we are doing everything we can to help ourselves reduplicate that ride. When the company was started, the thought process was close contact, get the rider to the horse, and fit the horse and fit the rider. And I know that sounds kind of cliche today, but back 47 years ago, why were we thinking about the horse? I mean, what the heck was, and so the whole thought process of staying consistent with our raw materials, staying consistent with our craftsmen, and staying consistent with the horse and the rider to give them an advantage, or what we call rideability, ride-a-bobs. It's all about the rideability, to make the ride better and make it feel better and fit the horse better. And then from the performance standpoint, being able to listen to yourself and the professional teams that we've had that have ridden our product, we want to make sure their butt is happy. We want to make sure their horses are happy. And we get all that information from them, and we listen to it, and we take it, and we make sure that we stay with that. And so sometimes it doesn't look like we're going very far forward because we're not always trying to reinvent the wheel. But at the same time, we want to have a consistency of what our product is, and that's what we work the hardest on. And I know when we talked and got prepped for this podcast and everything, I made a comment, and Jody, I know that it was you were really taken back by it, and it's something that I researched and found when we first got involved. We've just in the reining community of the open performance riders, the level 4, level 3, just in the open division, our product has been ridden to have won, give or take a little bit, $23-24 million. We take pride in that, and that's something that we talk about to stay humbled and know that, by golly, that's something that is hard work, and if we don't pay attention to it, it goes away in a snap.
Go ahead.
No, excuse me. No, that's an incredible stat, and I just, like I said, with my own personal experience, and when you said you don't reinvent the wheel, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? It's like that's incredible. Okay, Brian, excuse me. Go ahead.
No. Well, some things, it's like a general. Some things don't need to change.
Yeah,
but I do agree with Chris on the fact, and this I get humbled with all the time, because the longer we're in this industry, the more stuff we know through experience and stuff, and we kind of take that for granted. But constantly educating the next generation coming in, that's a level of responsibility that we've all got to have. And so when Chris talks about, and two things, one, the fact that we now recognize, treat, put the resources into our horses as the athletes they are. They certainly were a working tool 40, 50, 60 years ago, more so. Not that they're not now, but they're more of a true athletic partner in our whole thing as the sports evolves. So I think that's way cool and way good as we put the resources. But that mere concept of what makes a good saddle good? Why is it important? Because then as a rider and a horse partnership, everything you need to do, no matter how simple or how complex it is affected by that. It's like riding in jeans that aren't cut to ride in. I mean, you're going to have a bad time getting on. So I think all of that is very valuable. And many of us that have been around for a while, we take for granted those things that we know. And I don't think that we can ever educate enough, and you're never done. So
well, and you complimented our website, and thank you. And we spend daily doing nothing but giving information and educating about our product. Our website is why bobs, why ride a bobs. What is a bobs? The craftsmanship piece. I mean, we have guys that have been building saddles for 20 plus years, toolers, and why our product, why, what it is, why ride-a-bobs, and the information piece. I don't know. I mean, this is just on average, we get probably 10 emails a day saying, hey, can you tell me about our saddle? And again, we talk about our serial numbers, and we can tell people what year it was made, what it is. And that consistency piece is what we work hard on. That's the hardest thing we have, is to make sure that we stay consistent. And that's why we still use the same tree manufacturer. They're 100 plus years into the business. They're family generation also. So, we talk to them. Yeah, we make little tweaks here and there to make sure that we stay on top of what we need to stay on top of. But it's the information piece of what we are and who we are. And, we've always built, saddles and everything, but we are on a new endeavor, and we are refreshing and rebuilding and redesigning into the cutting horse industry. And being the official saddle of the NCHA is something that is very serious that we take, because we've built cutters and we used to build them in the past, but we got to make sure that we're doing what they're doing today and what their needs are today, back to the mission of Bob's: fit horse, fit rider, rideability. So we are moving forward, and one of the biggest changes we made is that we went in there and we really studied the industry as far as what they need to look like, and antiquing saddles and giving the look that people want. But the one thing we heard is, don't change how the saddle sits and rides. We just want it to look different. Great, we're on it. So, we just keep working at it. About all I can say. We just work out every day, and we answer questions every day.
Tell us, what's custom mean in today's time versus the common definition of what custom, everybody's got a little bit of their own, but as a saddle manufacturer, and it's a two-pronged question here, because your company is, not only are you broad and covering a lot in the U.S. market, but you're actually truly an international company. So I want you to talk about that a touch, but start with, what does custom mean in today's time? Go ahead.
So as generations have changed and time has changed, there are what we would consider one-off saddle makers. A saddle maker is a person that does everything. They cut the skirts, they set the ground seat themselves, they tool the saddle. They're a one-off saddle maker. Those are high-end. Not that our crew is not high-end, but they are high-end at everything. That one person does everything. That's a one-off saddle maker. How do we make a one-off custom saddle and build it today to be able to have the production to build as many as we do? So there are production houses that build production saddles. It's a saddle 101, saddle 102, saddle 104, and that's what they are. And you get two color choices, two tooling choices, and you're in the door, out the door. It's kind of like fast food. We are at the high upper end of that type of process. We have people that are experts at what they do, setting ground seats and doing certain things, but our saddle makers build the complete saddle. So we're able to take and make a custom saddle: color, tooling, seat, tree, fenders. We have 9 different fenders. Someone says, well, I want my leg to do this, I want that. So we take and we build that saddle to that specification. So we build it custom to that person. The only difference is we're not a one-off saddle maker. We're not embarrassed about that. We don't hide from that. But we are a custom shop from the standpoint that we build what somebody wants, because we get people all the time, and what's your number one saddle? I just need a riding saddle. Just build me a riding saddle. Our order sheets are very extensive. We have at least 15 questions that have to be answered. Or Brian or Jody, I can't build you a saddle if you don't have answers to 15 of them. So that's where custom comes into us, is that specific. And then from the international standpoint, we ship in and sell saddles in 13, 14 different countries. So yeah, it's an international brand, and we manage and view and see and respect Bob's Custom Saddles as a brand, not a product.
Absolutely. No, that's crazy. And I was just going to ask you about that international market. I know I know it's gotten, it was huge 25 years ago, 30 years ago when the Western style of riding first, became popular in Europe, and people found out that they could actually go lope, change leads, and turn around without having to spend 44 years in a flat saddle, right? So anyway, and I know that the Bob saddles are big over there because I sold a pickup load of them myself when I was doing tons of business over there. And what's your biggest international market right now? I mean, just for the viewing audience,
Well, I mean, we do really well in Canada. We've got some dealers up there that do remarkable things. I say the European market. A lot of the countries over there, we do very well in Australia, but just the overall European market, they're getting a lot more educated, and they have an understanding that better tools are important. Mm-hmm. And so, we look at our product as one of those things, as a tool. Are you going to go out and just fish 6 times a year, or are you going to ride 12 head a day a year? And that just kind of goes back to the core roots of who we are. Bob's Custom Saddles started building saddles for somebody that rode 12 to 14 head of horses a day and rode 14 hours a day. And we take that and we put it in for somebody that might ride 20 weekends a year. But they can know and rely on the fact that we are building a product for somebody that lives in that product, and that's how they make their living. So again, that's something that makes and keeps us humble, because that's a huge responsibility to know that someone's going to ride something for 14 hours in a day. So that keeps us making sure we do the right things.
Good. Well, that's well said. And I might just briefly ask one more question. I know that your craftsmanship has been exactly the same. Has your materials changed? Your access to materials changed any as like hide quality, that kind of stuff over the last 25 years? Is that,
it's not that Herman Oak or who we buy our supplies from. And I say Herman Oak because, again, we're proud of what they do and they help us build what we build. But cattle, I know this was another point that was kind of something that we all laughed about, but cattle have changed. Cattle used to be taller and shorter. Now cattle are longer and not as tall. So how we cut leather has changed. We don't get to cut certain parts in the leather. So leather stretches. And it's the same for all of us. Any saddle manufacturer, anyone producing leather products, it's the same for all of us. People go, well, your saddles aren't what they used to be, or that product isn't what it used to be. We don't get the ability to buy what we used to buy. That doesn't mean that we don't have quality materials that we're building with. We just have to change kind of how we do it, because the beef industry is run by what I call beef in a box. Cattle are being produced and run through quicker and processed faster than they used to. So, they're 1,200 pounds. They used to be 1,800 pounds, and they used to be around on Earth a lot longer. It's a business. Mm-hmm. So, and the other thing that dictates a lot to what we get and what we do is, I know this, I didn't mention this to you guys the other day, but is the automobile industry. The automobile industry uses more leather than anybody. Then it goes into the fashion, and maybe the furniture. But we're kind of looked at as they're just off the side. They're make some fun of ourselves here. They're just a bunch of rednecks. What do they know? But it really comes down to the quality and sizing and everything. It's where all the revenue goes. But so we adapt to that, and we change with it, and we study it, and we work with the manufacturers that we buy leather from. But it kind of throws some curveballs at us sometimes.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much. That was I found that tremendously interesting, and I think that anybody that looks at this, it's kind of like going to the grocery store. It's like, well, where does this stuff come from? And that's well explained. Thank you.
Well, and the other thing is that we get people that ask the question, and they we do not stain any of our product. We oil and we antique. That's all a hand process. And so our coloring process is that we don't get to go take it into a paint booth and, get the number of the color and stick it in a computer, and here comes a blue or a red or a green or a yellow and whatever shade somebody wants. We have to oil that into the leather, and we have to antique it into the leather. So, and every time you take a photo, what's the lighting? Is it going to be a little bit lighter? You see a saddle on our website. Well, I want that color. So we always tell people and educate people that there is a color variance, and the sun and what conditions you live in. Do you live in a wetter climate? Do you live in a drier climate? All that has to do with patinaing the leather, and it all turns out to be its own natural being. And that's, so for us to say that we can build that exact color every time, we spend a lot of time, again, educating the customer. We're doing everything we can. We've got some variances that we live inside of. And there are saddle companies that are production companies, and there's a need, and it's great that they do what they do, but they are able to get that same thing every time because of their process. But our process is hand done, hand tooled, hand oiled, hand colored, custom made.
Yeah, but I think the biggest point is it's like any trade, any craft, any art. You can only perform and do as good as the tools that you have. And so when you start to talk, and I agree with you, there is a place for all of those supply lines in our industry, but as a consumer and a horse person, as you advance your activity and your skills, you've got to be advancing your tools along with it, not only the genetics in our horses, because when you talk about leather being different over the time, our horses are different too. So we've got to all keep moving with that, but that lesson of you can only perform as good as the tools that you're using, I think that's a big one in the saddle world, and it true in all of the equipment that we use. But a lot of people coming into the horse world, a saddle's a saddle, and no, that's not. That's like a shoe's a shoe. So you don't want to run in high heels, and so right. So I'm trying to keep it kind of in the focal point.
I always reference the golf world. I'm a gopher, not a golfer, right? But I enjoy it. I get to spend time with my father and family and friends and whatnot. And if somebody walked up and handed me Jordan Spieth's golf club, I'd hurt myself. I'd hook it in. It might come fine and hit me in the back of the head. We try to take the technology of what we've learned from our Jordan Spieths, Tiger Woods of the world that ride our product, but also have it user-friendly for the people that ride in the rookie and the non-pro and the amateurs and all that, and give them the features of knowing that this product is to help them. But it's because we work with the professionals to get that to them. Yep.
Well,
cool.
Well stated. Our producer comes from the baseball world. We play golf together, and the point is, he always thinks that bigger bat when we're on the tee box is going to whack him longer. So, anyways, we have fun internally. It's our own fun. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I had an old friend of mine, an old golfer, said it's not the arrow, it's the Indian, right? Yeah. So, it's a true story.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm going to take you away from the manufacturing business here just for a second. I want you to think about this. And Brian and I, we always said when we started the show, we were going to be really transparent. And this is a part that, Brian and I have talked about it at extent, over the years. In the horse business, I always said that, we're kind of in a giant jackpot. Right? We run it our own money. Essentially, that's what it is. It's a good thing that horse people are gamblers, right? Which I'll get to down the road here again. But because we're it's like you're rolling on the crap table. You're paying a big entry fee and going trying to show it to futurity, but we essentially run it our own money. And the sponsorships have gotten better, but sometimes I think I personally think from the professional side of this thing is that sometimes our sponsors are abused. We go after them so much. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to say bad things about the sponsorship deal and people that are going after sponsors. I'm just saying the horse gets rode to death sometimes. And I know Bob's, like I said, my first one was a sponsored saddle in 1989, and I think that I probably sold a couple of pickup loads of saddles because of that one. So it was a good sponsorship. But can you talk a little bit about that and your personal feelings? And like I said, I don't want it to be a sore subject. I want your opinion.
Oh, it's not a sore subject at all. We kind of to jump way back and then I can go fast really forward. But I started showing horses when I was 8 years old. And my family, their cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, my parents and myself and my brother, we're first generation. And so, we got into it and so since I was 8 years old, I've been in this industry, the Western industry, the horse industry. And my business career started in the horse industry in 91. And I've been in it ever since. And I've had the ability to run retail stores and own retail stores. I've had sales territories and sold product for some really great companies. I've got to consult and design product for our own stores, design product for companies that are still selling that product today, which has led me through all this. I managed and was a director of sales at Montana Silversmith. But all of it has always kind of led, and I've been a contestant. I've been a sponsor. I've been a producer. I've been a manufacturer. So through all of that, it's a great question from the standpoint that it takes sponsors to keep this industry going. And the loyalty part of it is probably where the black eye comes in sometimes, is because the sponsors that get hit on the most don't traditionally, or sometimes don't get some of the benefit of being a sponsor because, people don't stay loyal. But the Western industry as a whole, when you take a look at it globally, not granularly, they do a pretty remarkable job. And it is very important to sponsor. It's important that the endorsers, the ambassadors, the spokespeople that have companies like you have had, that they are good stewards and they pay attention to that and they respect it. And it's also the responsibility of the associations or the events that are getting sponsors to make sure that they go above and beyond. And through all of my career, anything I've done, I've always gone with the philosophy of a partnership more than a sponsorship. And it's a partnership, and if both sides are given 51%, then how can it not be successful? And that's how we view it at Bob's. I mean, our sponsorships we continually work on. It's funny that we're doing this podcast, but we went through and first of the year and we had some stuff to go on and everything. I mean, I think my week was nothing but contracts with updating sponsorships and recreating and extending contracts and going over some of the questions that you're asking about how can sponsorships be beneficial, and it all comes down to partnerships. Would I like to be able to have some of these events go out and bring in money from other entities? Yeah, because it can't always be our burden. It can't always be just the general 15 people that, I could only imagine how many phone calls Frank Constantini gets at Markel, or, whether it be Weaver Leather, Equibrands, or Cinch Wrangler, Rod Patrick. I mean, the list goes on, and it's like, here's the box that everyone calls, but they want this much money. So we all have to be good stewards with it. And yeah, there's pluses and minuses, but without being able to sponsor good events and without sponsorship, I don't know that Bob's would be where we are. Bob's philosophy in the beginning is that they produced and they awarded a lot of saddles. We don't build trophies at Bob's Custom Saddles. We build awards because it's a hell of an achievement to win any futurity, any derby, any world championship. It's a big deal. And our product that we award is the exact same product that either one of you would go in and buy. We don't have a subdivision for our product line when it comes to what our awards are, because you spend $100,000, $200,000 on a horse, and you spend $60,000 with trainers, and then you pay entry fees and everything like that, and you go win something, and they hand you. So we view it as, we don't want to be a trinket. We want to be something that people go, man, that's awesome.
Well, I think that we're on a key one, and I actually want to display because I was overly impressed, and you've got it right on your website, which is your sponsorship activity across the industry. So what will, on behalf of Bob's and the entire industry, thank you very much. But the Interscholastic Equestrian Association, and we use so many acronyms and all the rest of that, which is IEA, because that's at the college level. But you guys are, and the ORHA, which is actually Oregon, and my reflex was Ontario, but you're actually in the Ontario Reined Cow Horse, and so you're across all of that. Which you got the Pain Horses and the NRHA. You got it from the top down, and I think that's phenomenal. And I think you hit. There's a couple things. One, and Prince George Reining Horse Association, is that Prince George, Canada, Quebec,
yes.
Up there? Okay. I actually come from that part of the country, so it was easy for me to relate to that. So, sponsorships and our dependency as an industry and the amount of emphasis, you said 51-51. What a great way to approach that. And I think that is, it's so worthy of so much conversation, because everybody in the horse show world, the horse show production world, is so much state level, nonprofit organization, volunteer based, and we all think that it's no big deal for sponsors to pony up and support what we're doing. And I question ourselves on how much we pay attention to what that really means. And so when I saw your sponsorship activity right on your website, it told me how serious you guys are about the industry itself. And so I'm not sure that there's an answer in there, but I think the audience in our industry has got to think about, and this is a big one to me because I spent the second half of my career in the event production side of the world, of our world, and the production and the dependency on, one, sponsors. And yes, sponsors are good for events, but then two is the direct supply functions inside our industry, as opposed to building our industry more and attracting more sponsors that would have value and benefit that are beyond us as savvy consumers, because the audience that we're going to get to in a minute, there's significant value there. But the sponsorship component and its growth, I don't know what the true question or answer is, other than I want us as an industry to be more respectful to the business people that are actually supporting it. And you said loyalty, which is us buying services and goods from those that are supporting us, right? Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Yeah, and there are two different kinds of sponsors. And like I said, it's been a really big week of conversation about sponsors, and in all of this, in this podcast today, I just want to say, I try not to mention a lot of names, because I don't want to accidentally forget somebody that's going to say, Chris, way to go. Thanks. Good job. So, but
I get it.
The associations that we work with is very broad, and you put them up there. And so there are two different kinds of sponsors. There are sponsors that live inside of the industry, okay? And those are people that are producing products, whether it be hats, boots, jeans, shirts, saddle pads, bridles, bits, saddles, blah, 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 blah. And then there are people that are service portions of the industry, insurance companies, horse breeders, trainers. So there are two different kinds of sponsors. And in that, we do see an influx of people come in and go. For the people that produce products that we have to live inside of our industry and work inside of our industry, we as a group are the ones that are always here. Bob's has been sponsoring since, I'm just going to make a simple number, 1990. I know it's been before that, but I mean, if you take a look at it across the board, and we have long-standing relationships with the NCHA, the NRHA, the NRCHA, and a lot of these other events. Arizona Sun Circuit is another one. So inside of all that, there's different kinds of sponsors. And then there's the sponsor that comes in and they need brand recognition. They don't really, they're not selling a product yet, but they're wanting to or whatever. They need brand recognition. They need naming recognition. So there are sponsors like that, and those sponsors come and go. But the ones that are here every year, every day, that are producing and are a part of what we do, one thing that we say at Bob's Custom Saddles is that we are a very small company doing really big things.
Good for you guys.
Yeah,
that kind of answers that all. And I think that every different type of sponsor, there's 2, maybe 3 different brackets of sponsors. We all have a different need. We all have a different want. But we all have the result that we want to be treated and get recognition, get appreciation, get loyalty, build consistency, build trust. So that's why we try to work with everybody we do. Now, do we have a strategy at Bob's for sponsorship? Yes, we do. And it was cool because Bob's had a very similar strategy before we came in got involved in Bob's Custom Saddles. And the strategy is that we want to make sure that we represent and we respect the professional athlete who endorses and rides our product, and listen to them and give them credit and respect them. But we want to take that and make sure that we are able to supply and furnish to the people that are in the rookie division and the non-pro division and the level 1 riders and the amateur riders and whatever discipline they do, the level 1 riders in the AQHA, APHA, and all those programs. Because those are the people that are actually supporting. Those are the people, as Jody said, those are the people paying the jackpot money. Those are the people paying the money in for these associations to do what they do. So when it comes to our scholastic program, we are mindful of the scholastic youth and scholastic programs and educational programs. We always try to support. We support the Youth World's Greatest in the NRCHA. We always try the IEA, the NCEA. We do what we can to support that. So as those people mature and they get along in life, they have an understanding of why it is important to have good tools. The best houses built are by experienced people with the best tools.
Yep.
And you can have experienced people with crappy tools, and their house is good, but it's not as good as somebody that's got the other two. So that's the part of the whole deal is education about tools and making our product available at all the levels and taking what we've learned and putting that, and that is solely through sponsorship. So it is very important and it is very strategic.
Well, I think that's a great explanation, and I'm going to ask you one more thing about it, and then I'm going to let Brian lead us into something else because I'm having so much fun. I'm already thinking, okay, now wait a minute, how much time have we got here? It's great, but I'm going to say it's when you say athlete and, we're talking about loyalty and, it's a different world today than it was when I was a kid. In National Football League, a player would play for his team for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Hell, today, the college athletes aren't even expected to finish at the same school. They enter a portal and they jump ship and go somewhere else every couple of years, whatever. Whoever pays the most money, I'm out of here. So, I think that has a little bit to do with the loyalty because it's a different world than it was our generation. It was like, I find a product that I like, didn't change, I'm sticking with it. And now it's like, you know what, you pay me a little bit more, I'll go over here or whatever. It's a different world and you have to evolve with it. And it sounds like you guys are right in the middle of it.
Well, we tried, and yes, we've had some trainers leave. And through that process, we've had some trainers come back and said, hey, we didn't like what was on the other side, whatever the other side was. And that's where we live in the piece of who we are as Bob's Custom Saddles, being consistent with our message is, being consistent with what our product is, and being consistent with who we are as a sponsor and supporter. And this is the big one for us, a steward. steward of who we are and what we want to be. And we have nothing to hide at our company. We are transparent. We answer the questions and all of that. So again, sponsorship for us is important, and it is a big part of what we do. We just have to be careful with it because, shoot, I came up with the saying one time because we were getting over inundated with sponsorship and indoor seats and everything like that. And I don't know, we were sitting in a meeting and I just was sitting there and I was like, okay, here we go again. And I looked at the gentleman that we were sitting at the table with and I said, you know what, guys? There ain't no revenue in free. We got to come up with another program. We got to be 51% apiece here, fellas. We got to figure something out.
Exactly.
I love that one on two things. One, there ain't no revenue in free. That's a keeper. My father used to talk about being stewards. My father and my grandfather used to talk because when when you're young and you're looking forward in life, blah blah blah, but in the horse world and price of land, et cetera, et cetera. But my father used to always tell me that we're only stewards because it doesn't matter that you buy it. And that for a short period of time, you're going to own it. Your job is not whether you own it or pay it off. It's taking care of it. And so that stewardship, I think, is a big one and can't be overly emphasized enough. So I love the way you make reference to that. Chris, tell me, especially being direct business as well as a person living this lifestyle and loving this industry like Jody and I do, but in the industry we're struggling with, because we hear it in all these different forms, growth. Mm-hmm. How is the industry growing? What does growth mean? What's the means by which we are growing? How are we supposed to measure that? In the advanced disciplines, and I use this one because like other sports, I'm going to use a dorky one because the NFR just finished. There's about 4,000 to 4,500 PRCA active athletes at that level, but they had about 48 million fans and attendees that not only patronized the NFR finals and supported it in all the forms that we are in today's time. That's the way the PRCA measures their whole industry. And I use that as a parallel when we look at ourselves. And so my question is, from your standpoint, and being a high quality tool provider to a savvy consumer already, but as an industry, what does growth mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to Bob's? What does it mean to Chris as a horseman? What's growth mean? Is it just more?
Growth in the industry. Sorry, everyone's going to laugh, but I got a fly that decided that it wants to be more famous than the three of us. So I'm trying to get rid of that dang thing.
It's because it's January and it's cold outside.
Yeah, it's a little chilly here, even in Arizona. Growth. Growth is a great word. Growth comes from a lot of different places. Again, why is the NFR becoming what it is? It's a good product, and it's a great event to watch, and it's good people that are putting everything that they've got on the line, everything, rolling the dice, doubling down on an 11 at the blackjack table, however you want to do it. And it's real, and it's organic, and it has a great story behind it. And then you take the Cowboy Channel, and you take the thoughts and aspirations of some other people in the industry, and you take some TV shows that have hit, and you put it all together, and you get something that generates that. Where does the performance industry fit in for growth? We talk about the disciplines. We already know what they are. Got the horse show world, reiners, cutters, cow horses. We got the performance industry. The growth on that has a challenge because we don't, unfortunately, until it's the best of the best or that one moment, it's not a lot of spectator. It takes a lot of talent to take a horse and go through a trail class or a Western riding pattern or even a reining pattern. But unless you love it and already know it and you're educated on it, is it a lot of fun to watch?
Right.
So the spectator part of it is where a lot of growth comes from. And growth, and our industry is starting to pay attention to it. Again, I referenced the phone calls I've had over the last 10, 12 business days of what the associations, what these events are telling me, what they're doing to grow. We've got a standalone event that we have supported from the beginning, the Run for the Million. And it's grown every year, but it's a spectator event. But the cool thing about it is it's not just for one discipline. It's for the performance industry. It's for the performance industry. Mm-hmm. And it's letting everybody come together. So growth has to come, and yes, it's got to come, and there's got to have a lot of input and a lot of structure put at the top. But if it doesn't, and if associations don't pay attention to, and our industry doesn't pay attention to, and the industry leaders as far as trainers at the top end, if they don't become and are staying stewards, we got to build it from the bottom, guys. It's got to come from the bottom. And if it doesn't come from the bottom, we're not going to hold anybody. And it's our responsibility right now as an industry to make sure that all facets are being taken care of. And yes, it's a tall order. It is not a simple answer. And I'm not, it's not a simple answer. But the bottom also has to be respected, and the bottom also has to be taken care of.
Well, but I hear you, and I'm going to jump. I think you hit it right on the head. You hit the nail right on the head, and so outstanding. And this is a key area that I'm extremely passionate, and I actually get too zealous about it. But the point's this: I don't think it's that hard. Why we make it this hard is because we try to do it all. And your point of the top and what can we learn from the sport of rodeo is that the NFR is focused on the thing that they're focused on, and why can it do 10 nights of that? Because they've got it filtered and pipelined so that all those disciplines at the top are going across. And so not only can you find the team roping world champion, but you can also be naming the cowboy all-around world champion. And all of that is fascinating. Can we be doing something similar to that in the advanced performance horseman side of our industry? And the answer is yes. And then comes, which is what they're doing, the Run for the Million, the performance horseman that's going to come up here in March. All of that is fascinating. But then when you talk about the associations, because to me, this is me, just Brian talking, the associations got to get focused on exactly what you bring up, which is the bottom, and which is getting more people, which means they don't need to be at the top. They need to be in the structure and educational and supply component, fun, skill, access. And so horse shows in today's time should look to be doing things differently for providing different services to those different segments, as opposed to trying to do them all. And that's one of the big ones. Sun Circuit, there's only one of those. So stop trying to put on the next second Sun Circuit. I'm saying this to the industry.
Yeah.
What should you be doing? Look at what the Sun Circuit is doing, and now go provide a good, if it's fun, then go put on that kind of event and activity. And so you hit a really big one. And so I think that's an interesting challenge to all of us in being good stewards from the top down. But actually, how do you open the door? Because this is the big one that I hear. And I've heard it now for 20-some years, 30 years since I was on the board of the NRHA. And it's the difference between fun. I want to have fun with my horse and other people that are doing what I like to do, versus I'm going to win at all costs, which is the seriousness of competition. Mm-hmm. And those don't have to live in the same place at the same time.
Well, there's growth.
Go ahead.
There's a part of growth that we haven't touched on, and I know it's in our notes, so I might be jumping a little ahead, but it is something that was on our dialogue, is And man, everybody, please, I don't need phone calls, get yelled at or whatever, but I'm gonna jump into a pond right here.
Call me.
It's participation trophies, a leveling system, and producing things that are individual. And there are two industries in the equine industry that have a lot of members and a lot of growth. And yes, they're using their own money to fund a lot of it and using their own money to fund a lot of the payouts. But those people are having fun. And if they weren't having fun and they weren't enjoying it, they wouldn't be doing it. And it's the barrel racing industry and the team roping industry.
Team ropers.
And they have two different styles of leveling systems. Barrel racing industry is great. You take the top barrel racers in the world. Now, I understand it's on time, and I understand why their leveling system works. And I'm not going to say it can work in every discipline, but they figured it out. Mm-hmm. The best of the best can show up on a horse, and however fast that horse runs, or however slow that horse runs, there's 5 slots that it's going to fall into by a leveling system, and you can have a world champion, 2-time, 1-time, 10-time world champion show up at a barrel race and win the 4D because of the horse that they took. And guess what they get to do? They get to season that horse to find out if it gets to be at the top of the top. And in the team roping community, that is on the person. It's like the golfing industry. It's your handicap. And the team roping community is great because the open guys have got their area that they get to play in. And thanks to, again, Cowboy Channel, sponsorship, the NFR, what the PRCA does, and some other open events, the open guys are getting to be able to pursue and win lots of money. I mean, you look at what the 2 world champions this year in the PRCA at the NFR won by their season-ending total broke the records. Mm-hmm. So they're able to do that, but the team roping community figured out a way to have a format for the people that are right below that want to be them or emulate them or just love the sport to go have fun. They too have a platform that they don't have to go knock their heads against those open guys. And I don't know if, the Cutting Horse Association's got 3 different levels, open, amateur, non-pro. All of these disciplines need to try to figure out something. But and then I always hear the deal about money. It costs so much. And this morning, Tammy and myself were talking, and I started laughing, and she goes, "What are you laughing?" I said, we got this podcast today. I'm really fired up about it. I do love this industry. And people are like, how can we grow it? And I said, you know what we need to do? We need to go to every lake and every marina and say, you have enough money to be in the horse business. By the time you buy a truck and you jack it up and you buy a boat trailer and you buy a boat and you pay the dock fee and you pay the storage fee and you pay the in the water and out of the water and everything, you got enough money to be in the horse business. And there are people in the horse industry, and we at Bob's Custom Saddles and myself have to remind myself of this all the time. There are 2 different kinds of horse people. There are the horse people that are actually trying to make a living and actually trying to make it a business. And then there's the people that are the boaters and the golfers. Right. There are those people that are doing it because it's entertainment. There are people that don't go on trips. And I sit there and I think, God, how can somebody spend what they spend in the horse business? I got to change that mindset of myself. Because there's people that spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year going on vacations, going on cruises, whatever they do.
Yep.
They have the money. The money's out there. We as an industry have to explain to them why this is fun and how it can be fun and how great it is for the family because the whole family can do it together. And that's a growth. You ask about growth. There's growth right there.
Yep. No, I hear you, and you're on the same podium I'm on, and anyways, Jody and I have a lot of fun debating a lot of these issues, and they get serious. And here's where I'm going because the comment, and I've been one of the few, because the comment of it's expensive to have horses, I actually disagree with. It's not more yes, but it's no different than, and I'm a casual golfer, and sometime we'll have to go spend the afternoon, the three of us, and play around. So just for fun. The point is you can get out of it and put in it whatever you want. Yep. That's the beauty. And I would tell you, so we say it's expensive, but it's about the way we approach it coming in. And if we say you got to spend $100,000 before you even know if you like the lifestyle and the people, then that's a problem. Mm-hmm. It's not the 100,000. It's the fact that you got to say that and spend it before you even walk through the door. And that's where and the message that we as an industry continue to put out. I agree with you 100%, that it is not too expensive. And I also would say that we as an industry have a number of other attributes that are way more powerful than many of the other things that you're going to spend and the big one is, we've already hit it. It's a lifestyle. And what has the Cowboy Channel and RFD TV been doing, what they've been doing? It's about the lifestyle. And I hear this a lot and we miss it, which is about people, good people wanting to be with good people, doing what they want to be doing. And we all love the horses. And now that our horse is more of a partner than just a tool, that's the cultural shift that I see. And so I'm not trying to overly bang on that, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. And then when you talk about the difference between business, I've got to make a living. You're in this custom saddle, custom leather business to provide those products and educate your consumers, which is very different than the consumer, whether they're a active athlete riding in your saddle or because this is what we're going to go do as a family for the next several years. And our industry gets very clouded in that space. That space between activity and I got to make a living, that's a very clouded place in our industry, and it creates the frustrations that I see and hear. So thank you for bringing that up. Jody, you want to – Jody and I will get into but it's expensive conversation a lot. So
right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think the leveling system we have had extensive conversations about that. And I think part of the cutting and part of the attraction to as far as like the cutting and the cow horse, and even to a certain extent, the ropings, a cow can be a hell of a leveler. Right. Oh. I mean, it's like, it's not like the Reign or the Western Pleasures or anything like that. But I mean, that cow is always there. So that's, you can be the best guy in the world riding the best horse. You draw a bad cow, you're done. So that, I mean, like I said, that's a leveler. The Reign horse, there's some other ideas that we have put forth that I think would make more sense. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when you talk about that boat thing, I wanted to add one more thing, and they use it 10 times a year, right? I mean, they spend all that money on that boat and they use it 10 times a year. Yeah. And then after a few, they decide to sell it. So yeah.
Well, and then they got to pay to put it in storage.
Well, that's right. What my point is. And so we think about someone going, well, gee, how can I pay a training bill or a board bill or whatnot? Right. You're already paying it for your boat sitting in the water that you don't even go pet. So at least you can get some camaraderie out of a horse.
Yep.
Right. Exactly. So, well, cool. No, that's way good.
I want to take us.
Ahead.
Go ahead. Do you have
no, that's fine. Lead on.
Well, we had only because our time's going to come, and it's been a phenomenal conversation. I knew it was gonna, because your insight, Chris, we absolutely we adore. So thank you so much for your time. But we had a direct question come across through our website, the Cowboy Office website. I want the three of us to spend a couple minutes kind of talking about it. The question that came in was rapid growth and interest in our sport. How does this affect our industry? That was the question. And because our industry is so association, nonprofit, volunteer kind of based, so let's the three of us talk about that for just a touch, because while the interest is coming, we're yet to truly get our arms around what does growth mean, and then keeping that moving so that it can provide all the diverse services that our entire industry needs. So rapid growth and interest in our sport, and how does it affect our industry? Either one.
Go ahead, Brian. You started up.
Well, I think the interest is phenomenal. I think what we've got to do, which there's nothing but goodness with the more interest. That's just common sense. I think our chore and the responsibility in being good stewards is looking at our associations, our regulatory portions of our activity, and starting to structure them differently. It does go into your leveling conversation, and Jody and I talk a lot about this, especially in the sport of reining. But the point is, how do you begin to have activity that's got some organization to it and structure, but do it for the different components of the industry, the beginners, the intermediates, the ones that want to seriously advance skills for competition. And then, of course, you've got the pro level, which I think is the easy part, which is where everybody wants to get focused on. That's the way I see it, and that's what I think that advanced interest means to us. And we've got to start looking at it different. You know, should the AQHA be focused on, I'm only using them as a simple example, providing world champions in every discipline that they offer? Probably not. Should they be doing? Which would not be any different than the Interscholastic Collegiate Association or NCAA. They should all kind of start to get focused on the pieces that they would be good at. What would the AQHA be great at? Getting more people involved with the great quarter horse, period. And if you had more of those, there's nothing but good there. More quarter horses, more horses bred, more members involved. I don't care if they ride hunt seat, Western. I don't care if they learn to rope or learn to jump or want to drive. You can drive a quarter horse, all of those things. Just let them start to do good stuff with horses. So that's the way I kind of see it. But I see that's the thing that we as an industry kind of have to look at it different.
You know, I would throw something at you here, Chris, and maybe food for thought. You know, for me, like I always say from a judging standpoint, anything is that the answer is in the middle, right? And I think that rapid growth is a great thing, but it needs to be tempered because, you know, otherwise it's a flash in the pan, you know, I mean, and I'm just talking off the cuff here, but, you know, rapid growth is awesome, but, you know, look what it's done to horse prices. And I'm not, you know, I'm very happy when somebody can go ahead and buy, but I mean, you call somebody for a horse and they price a Wheeling for $200,000, you stand a better chance of getting hit by a meteor than me paying $200,000 for a baby. You know, I mean, it ain't going to happen. And whether or not they're worth it or not, people are going to ask that price for it because, well, that's what the going rate is. And that's not healthy for an industry. There's no place for someone to get started.
Right.
So just my 2 cents. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, you know, buying in and everything and having a platform for people to come in, there's rapid growth, and growth is not romantic. It's not sexy. Because it takes hard work, and the people that are going to be able to maintain rapid growth are the ones that do it methodically and stay in the middle, like you're talking about, Jody, and actually don't try to blow something up to be as big as the Sun Circuit, the Congress, the Run for the Million, all the futurities that happen that pay $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. That's what helps create a desire for rapid growth. But I think that the associations, and I do know that there are several of them that are really working on their information and their education. Education is where we have to be on all of it. And every company, every sponsor, every association needs to be about education. Why are horses good? Why is the Western lifestyle good? Why is this? Why is this? So that, I think, helps the middle and helps temper it a little bit. But rapid growth, we as an industry, and I say we, the industry, needs to spend a lot of time self-searching this one right here. Why are people leaving? We need to worry about where new ones are coming from. But if we manage and find out why they're leaving and manage to make sure they don't leave, boy, how great would it be then? You grow by 10% every year and you don't have anyone leave. That's a number that you can work with. you can manage, you can work on your awards programs, you can work on your scheduling, you can work with your events. But I mean, you take, just because we're in Arizona, I'm not mentioning anything back east, up north or whatever, but the Sun Circuit. I mean, God, what they've done. How do you know how to manage the growth that they're getting? Rapid growth. You can't. So it comes from the standpoint of, let's make sure we don't lose anybody. Then let's educate. We get people brought in from the standpoint of they're educated. They know what to expect. They know what it means to go to a no-bling show. They know what it means, what the commitment's going to be to go get a futurity horse. They understand these certain things, and they find a way into the market space. What does that do? That helps that mid-tier trainer that's wanting to get to the top. That helps those people become more solid and gives them someone to sell to and to give lessons to, so that people have a way to get in, and it's a stepping stone instead of zero, or driving at NASCAR trying to beat somebody, one of the NASCAR drivers. And sometimes I think our industry is at fault of that we're either sitting in the stands cheering, or we're having to pay to be a NASCAR team.
Yeah, I think you hit it on a big one there, and that is one of our faults. We try to go from zero to the top too quick, too much. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, no, I hear you. That's a fascinating question that you pose on why are they leaving. That'd be a great one to put a little bit of research and time into. The Horse Council's doing a economic impact study this year in 23, and so seeing those numbers now, over the last 10 years, the horse industry as a whole, U.S. horse industry, plural, actually shrunk. It constricted between 2012 and 2017. We're yet to see what that looks like. When we talk about, being savvy people, highly involved in a more advanced end of our industry, and yes, the people that we cross paths with, yes, when we look at horses and they want to, sell us yearlings and weanlings for $100,000 and $200,000 and $300,000, we think everybody's lost their mind. Are there good horses available that lets people learn the fundamentals of horses? Yes, and I think that's the rescues, that's the therapy programs, where's life for those older horses that many of us think that we don't have a place for them to go. I actually would say that there's a lot of life. What we don't do is a very good job within an industry, back to the beginning, working together to keep those kind of networks kind of working and going. A value on a gelding that would teach people how to ride, I would tell you probably more, that's high value. Mm-hmm. So as an industry, we could be so much farther ahead now using technology, doing like what we're doing with this show. Jody and I have talked about if this kind of stuff was available in our time when we were younger, 25 and 30 years ago, how fast could we have gone? Because we might have gone a lot faster than we ever did, because the access to information and go try, all that kind of stuff. I think that networking function in our industry could be expanded in such a way that all of those supply lines could start to go. Ownership to horses, to me, is one of the barriers in my head. And I know there's some legal things in there, and we're going to bring on some experts to talk about that on national level. But equine liability and at the state level, and what does that mean? Because the inherent risk to riding horses, while they're real, but the only place that we have to overly spend some time is with youth, as opposed to once you're 18, you're a legal adult. And the responsibility of doing, it's dangerous to get out of bed some days, right, Jode?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't see those as limiters, because we could put the effort into how do we structurally kind of change that so that more people can get access to horses. And I think the real responsibility and stewardship, I'm using your words, Chris, it's about having access to high quality horses that would be good teachers. You don't put beginners on green horses. You know, the average person thinks they need to approach a horse like they do a dog or a cat. Well, no, you shouldn't. You know, your first horse should not be a weanling or a yearling. You know, it should be a well-aged, probably a gelding, and go spend some time and, you know, build that rapport with your partner. So anyways, I kind of, that's where I see all that stuff. But
well, one side note is another word. And you brought up a great point about having a platform like this 20 years ago and how far could we have been. I think the word that might help some as we get towards the end of our podcast here, which again, thank you guys. And this has been awesome. And it's just so great to be a part of an industry that needs and has the potential of lots of growth, is awareness. Education's one word, but awareness. And this right here, who knows how many people will hear this that might go take one riding lesson, but awareness. Awareness and information saying, hey, it's safe in this pond. It's safe over here. You know, it might look crazy at the NFR, this guy getting jerked around with the bareback rigging, but it's safe. It isn't all like that. Not every horse is going to do that to you. But just awareness of camaraderie.
I hear you, but if I'm going to just use a simple analogy, because since the NFR got a lot of TV and airtime, but if you now look across social media, you'll see a bunch of kids and people doing stuff in their living rooms and garages, which emulate, which is the basic skills of how do you ride a bucking horse, a bareback horse, or a saddle bronc horse before you ever even go try it. And that's the kind of stuff that we all could be helping each other. And that's the beauty with the technology, because you wouldn't have even thought of that stuff, let alone go try it. You know, so that's where I think it's a fascinating time for our industry. And so, anyways, Jody, anything?
No, I mean, it boils down to like that Western lifestyle, you know what I mean? And the thing that, you know, Chris, that you talk about, I mean, it's like it takes time, and that, you know, that Cowboy Lifestyle, that national finals group, I laughed because one of those little bull riders, they were going to put him in concussion protocol, and he laughed at him, right? I mean, like, you know, if an NFL football player has, you know, I mean, he gets a concussion, it's like, oh, you can't play for like 2 weeks, but we're still going to pay you your $1 million a week, right? I mean, it's just it's the American, it's the cowboy lifestyle, and we can never lose it no matter what happens. That doesn't necessarily mean the show horse thing, but the cowboy.
Yep. Well, I think that's one of the key. The cowboy, and what does a cowboy represent? Which is a social. That's a people to people. And I've heard this a number of times in the last 30 days. You know, and I'm watching social media more than I ever have in my lifetime, and I think I'm getting old and senile, so something might be wrong with me. But I'm paying attention to it. So the point is, what they talk about, this isn't me, this is them, is the people in the cowboy side of the lifestyle world are good people. And it's a good place to be. And so, wow. And I 100% agree. You know, I mean, I never set out, you know, my dad taught me early that it doesn't matter how much money you got in your bank account when you die. It doesn't matter, because you can't take it with you. Right. What will matter is your journey across life and how many people are going to miss you when you die. So you can dice that up however you want, but that cowboy lifestyle and the values and the character and everything that we do, and I think the horse is a large part of that.
I think the horse is a large part of it, but there's bad in any niche industry, anything. There's always a bad sector or whatnot. But the overall good of it, the overall camaraderie, the overall fact of discipline and responsibility. I think one of the greatest things that the horse equine industry, and let's kind of step away just from cowboy, but the equine industry, being around an equine athlete, the horse, one of the biggest things that is to learn is self-responsibility, self-discipline, and respect. If this animal, this athlete, doesn't have certain things, it's not going to be certain things, and it's your responsibility. And that's the thing. You have FFA and 4-H and all of that. It's training and educating why it's important to be responsible, why it's important to be disciplined and respect. I mean, I guess it's sad in our society that we can get on whatever social media platform and we sit there and say, well, we have a right to an opinion. Well, that doesn't mean you have a right to say it whenever the heck you want to. A lot of people believe that. So with an animal or with the horse or whatever, it's you have to communicate for this athlete that can't communicate. So that is a whole different level of responsibility and showing appreciation and being dedicated and care, showing care, kindness. God, these are all words that people are like, you mean that's still a word? Right. That's what the horse industry, the equine industry has to offer is being a good person.
Well said.
Yep, exactly. So cool.
Well, we got to pull it together. Chris, I know we could go on for hours. I look forward to actually bringing you back.
Love to be back
because well, your insight into the industry, not, yes, you got Bob's Custom Saddles and main quality supplier. All of that is highly valuable. Thank you very much. And thanks to all your people in your company. But your insight into the industry and seeing all of those angles. And so we truly appreciate that. And there's always more that we can do because that awareness and education that you make reference to, yes, highly valuable. So we can't thank you enough. Please share with all your staff and everybody at Bob's that we appreciate your time. We appreciate all of their skill and craftsmanship and the quality of products you bring to our market and allow us to enjoy what we do with riding our horses. So thanks again. Thank you all for having us and having me. And again, we at Bob's are a family, and that's the cool thing about it. It's I get to sit at the top and do certain things, but it takes every single one of us. We are, again, a very small company doing big things, and I'd love to have the marketing budget of some of the people that we compete against and some of the other large companies in the industry. I'd love to have 1/10 of their marketing budget. So we do what we can. Right. We do value every one of them that works for us and what they do, and we very much appreciate all of the professionals and the professional athletes that have been with Bob's and have supported Bob's, and we appreciate and thank everybody every day for wanting to ride our product. We thank everybody every day when they call the office and ask questions. We say, man, we really appreciate you reaching out because it's the only way we know to be is show appreciation and say thanks and try to make sure that we're there for what their needs are. Yep.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Chris, again, thank you, and Brian, thank you. It's been a great show, and like I said, we could do twice as much as we've done here, and we want to have you back. But anyway, our time allotment is what it is, and again, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in person.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep. I agree. Thank y'all. Have a great day.
Okay. All right. Stay in the middle, everybody.
Yep. Enjoy the ride.
Today's episode is brought to you by 4D Productions in cooperation with the Consultment Agency, a full-service agency that helps bring forward-thinking equine brands into the 21st century using digital skills and services such as website development, graphic design, social media, and media production such as the podcast you're consuming here today. Thank you so much for riding along with us today. Sign up at cowboyoffice.com to be the first to know about topics affecting the industry we love so much. You can reach out to us with topics you care about by finding us on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and all podcast platforms. And remember, share this episode with someone that may enjoy it, because the more we can share our horses with others, the better our world will be.